Welcome back, class 3 on Azure Associate Azure Administrator AZ-104 certification online training. Let me share my screen and you can see that you're able to see my screen. Can you see my screen, guys? Not yet, right?
No,
Give me 1 second.
noted.
Yeah. Let me create. This is class 3, right? Let me see that what we have discussed. Actually, I have created a meeting as a class 4. Okay. Let me power on this machine. Today we are going to talk about Windows Server DHCP. I need to build the lab. Right. Okay. Right. Okay, let's have a quick recap. Last class what we have discussed. Then we'll talk about the what topic we need to be covered today. So last week, which was the date? It was the 16th, right? It's 16. So we have done it. We have completed for that discussion of the recap. Okay, VM creation checklist we discussed. Okay, we have started for the virtual machine service, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So these are all we discussed why we need required. To create a VM, you must need a resource group. Networking we required. It's a public IP address and private IP address. Once you have machine built, you will see that is in public IP address and private IP address. And once you are access the VM, you can able to see the download RDP file to connect the machine, right? And you are connecting via public IP address. And you can see all the configuration related network, related storage, related disk, right? In the VM. So once the machine is up and running, we need to check that is an operating system, networking, and the storage, right? These are all just we have summarized, right? So we also discussed once it is a machine stopped status, right? Let's have a today date is 22/01/2022. Recap. Okay, last class we have discussed the service called as it's a VM, which is virtual machine. Virtual machine, right? In this virtual machine, we have understood that is how to deploy VM, right?
Yes.
And what are the prerequisites is needed? Prerequisites is needed. We have configured. Then once server build, once VM build, okay, built. So we have discussed a configuration of default configuration of VM. We have discussed, right? We discussed how to connect VM, which is download RDP file. And also we discussed what is that? The remote desktop connection manager. You need to install that is in one more called as a instead of that is remote desktop connection manager. Download and you can take the public IP address and you can connect it, right?
Yes.
Download and connect VM with the help of public IP address, right? Also, we discussed the VM billing part, right? Which is when it is going to bill or when it's going to be charged, right? You can say the cost
Mm.
effect of virtual machine. This is the most important point you need to remember. This will ask question interview. Many people will confusion for that is okay, everything is be going to bill. No, so they will not charge they will not charge for networking. Okay, networking means what? They will not charge for that is in the network interface card. Network interface card and the virtual configuration, virtual network configuration. Okay, so you need to remember this. If the machine is powered on, right, it will be created public IP address. This will be chargeable, public IP chargeable, right? And also when you turn off the machine, when you shut down the machine, when you shut down the machine, so what are the chargeable part here? It will be
Storage
chargeable.
and
Very good. Storage and
I-
public IP
IP.
address. Okay, rest other you will not going to charge it. Remember. But when you stop the machine, when you stop the machine, so you it will be charged only storage. Okay, only because your public IP address will be deallocated.
Mm.
Right? Remember, this is a billing part we have discussed last class. Also, we have accessed the machine over the RDP, and yes, we have verified and storage machine shutdown stop set public IP address is remain. So it will charge only public IP address. We also discuss for the each location. Okay, each location, or you can say region, the VM billing part is a different. Okay, billing it will not be same, right? So one VM you created for the South India, another VM created a South Europe. So India and Europe, you will not see that is the same billing part. So that billing part you need to always refer for
Region.
region wise Azure pricing. Okay, Azure
Price.
pricing calculator. Okay, always you need to refer this. We should remember to answer the question, to answer the whatever customer raise the questions, we need to be ready with information, and we
Mm.
need to tell them by referring this Azure pricing calculator. We need to check everything, and you can just check that particular region. Okay, region, and what service you are going to take about everything, it will be get calculated and it will give the result. Also, it is not only for the common, you can also go and check it for individual. Okay, so Azure network pricing. Okay, everything it will be updated. Network pricing. So now you can see virtual network pricing, right? So remember, it will these are the information you must required always. Virtual network in Azure, you can see here, virtual network in Azure is a free charge. Every subscription can create up to 50 virtual networks across all regions. See, this is the most important. Virtual network in Azure is a free of charge. Every subscription can create up to virtual network, up to 50 virtual network. Remember, this is the most important point. This question will ask in interview. Okay. Virtual network in Azure is a free charge. Every subscription can create up to 50 virtual network across all region. We need peering links to virtual network either in the same region, in a different region, and enable you to route the traffic between them using private IP address. Inbound and outbound traffic is a charge. You can, this is a chargeable. Inbound and outbound traffic is charged at both the ends via network, right? We will see the decision how inbound you are going to configure in today. You can see the decision. We need pairing the charge, and we need peering all related. We'll talk about this some more detail in peering, network traffic, inbound, outbound, when we talk about a networking topic. So we are still talking about virtual machine topic, and we also know that is in the billing part what we are going to talk about. So everything is, it will be not charged, and few of the things will be charged, but that we need to be understand clearly, right?
Mm.
Good to go.
Yes.
What we are going to talk about today, we will talk about in the continue with the same services today, continue with the VM service. couple of topics we are going to cover today, which is we have built last class a web server, right? We have built web server in one of the machine. We have access to only private IP address, right? We have access to only private IP address. Yes or no? Did we configure web application IA server? That's fine. We will work on it. Okay. Continue with service. What we are going to talk about today, we'll build again Windows virtual machine. We'll configure uh, web server. Okay. We'll check by accessing web application via private and public. But for public access, we need to configure inbound role. We will see that is. So once this is done, we will build again one more machine for Linux machine. Okay, we have built it Windows VM. We will build a Linux machine because we are all experiencing in a Windows server. That's what we are very familiar with the Windows VM. But we also know that is in what is the limitation, how we can configure Linux VM, and how to connect Linux VM. Okay, so this connecting VM on Linux machines, we should use the design putty. Remember, okay, putty we need to download. That is a free tool. You can use it, putty.exe, and you can access the Linux machine via a direct, which is what is the protocol we use the VM connect Windows VM connect. What is the protocol we use for Windows VM connecting?
HTTP.
It's RDP.
Yeah, remember. What this is a question we'll ask. So we use for the RDP protocol, right? Remember. And what is the port number of this?
It's 139 something.
No.
139 or 130.
53.
No. 53 is a DNS. It's a 3389, guys. Is a port number of RDP.
Yeah. RDP.
Remember.
Yeah,
Remember, this is again inter question. This is a very basic question we'll ask when you go to the Azure administrator. These are the simple question. When I build the machine, I don't know the what kind of chargeable, what kind of the cost. You should confidently answer. Number one. And when they ask a question for what is the port number we are going to connect RDP for the Windows server, same things we will be going to connect for the Linux machine. The Linux machine we are going to connect via SSH port number, SSH protocol, right? Protocol, and port number is 122. Remember, just simple definition while creating it will give the result, right? And again we will build web application in a Linux machine. Okay, and we will see that is in how to, again we will check accessing web application for Linux machine via public and a private IP address, right? Again, when you're accessing for that is in public, you need to configure for public you need to configure again for this VM also inbound role. Remember, these are the steps I'm writing. You need to do the practical very carefully, 1 or 2 times, then only you'll get a confident. Okay, so this is part for accessing a VM with web application. What kind of the port and what kind of the protocol we use and what is the inbound role we need to configure, right? Then we'll talk about in a part of VM, which is a disk related. Okay, disk related. What are the type of disk we use? Type of disk. Okay, we will discuss in detailed manner, right? Then we also discovered managed disk. What do you mean by managed disk? We also discuss temporary disk. What do you mean by this? And can created additional disk. Additional disk. How to configure? How to configure? Then how to use that disk created. So we need to follow the steps, a couple of things, right? Then after disk related, we can see some other part of some any other additional discussion we will talk about. Okay, good to go.
Yes.
Okay, let's see our Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com. Okay, you need to use for my outlook.com, which is already created. Okay, so you need to see that always, which I have created all the details. I have deleted everything. Okay, so again they have removed. 1 second. Now what we need to do, we will create a one more machine, Windows machine, and we'll configure web server. We'll continue with that. Okay, go to the quickly. First, you need to create a virtual machine. Okay, then create a virtual machine here. You can use that is emerging subscription, and we will create a new group for ours. The group will be VM service. Okay, VM service I'm creating, and virtual machines I'm going to creating. Uh, it's a test VM 01, and I'm taking for the South India, and I'm going to use for
Windows.
Windows Server. It's a by default is taking a Ubuntu. You need to select for the Windows Server data center, and there's the one important here. Give me 1 second, guys. Remember, when we are taking for that is in South India, and it's taking for the default B2 2 CPU 4G memory. This ZB, these machines is not available. Okay, so it means your subscription doesn't support virtual machine creation South India. So what you need to do, there are certain
Yes.
resources are not available on particular region on the particular subscription, right? So what we need to do, we need to choose for different one which is available. Say central US. The central US I have available. Again, it is not taking for the central US as well. And say in a Japan West. Okay, this is also not able to. Okay, I have taken the standard one, right? The basic level only we have taken, and let's see, there is a East US. Okay, the East US is going to taking now, right? You can see this configurations is able to manage. Then you need to create for username, Neel, and password. Have you guys practiced the last class what we have discussed? Done completely, or still any confusion? Now you can see there's a port number for the 3389. Remember, allow selected ports, right? So RDP port number for Windows Server, and I need to go to the next for the disk part. And as I told you, we will talk about the after configuration of this VM and the Linux VM. We'll talk about the disk related. In the disk related, you have the region type of the region premium SSD, standard SSD, right? And the standard HDD. That's a type of. Now you can see premium SSD, standard SSD, and standard HDD. When you want to select and how you need to configure, we'll talk about. But as of now, you can take a standard SSD, not for the premium. Usually remember premium SSD for the production environment, right? Since we are doing the lab and the testing purpose, don't take premium one. And usually, actually, if you want to use a HDD, the normal HDD hard disk can traditional hard disk will be there. If you don't want to have a much on billing part or chargeable, it's okay for the normal performance. It's fine to take a standard HDD, but since we are accessing a very good way, can take for standard SSD. But when you take a standard SSD, standard HDD, and premium SSD, accordingly your charge will be changed. Remember, it's not like blindly we need to connect and go next. We need to remember. So accordingly, what we are going to selecting of the hard disk part or disk part, your the performance will be increasing because of your IOPS workload. Because the selected VM size supports premium disk, we recommend no, this is actually it should show that is in standard disk. Okay, it still show as a premium disk only. We recommend a premium SSD for high IOPS. It's a input operational per second. Remember, it's a input operational per second workloads. It means how much your read writable your hard disk can provide based on your utilization, based on your execution. Now, what kind of data you are going to use, okay, and that much of your performance it will be increased. And also it's not only for the how much how data you are going to, you will be calculated how much data it is be sizable, like video file, video content, and image content, those kind of huge size data content. How do you access, like in a application, web applications you are going to use, database you are going to use, right? In database concept, what is happening, this is a in a per second there is a huge data will be going to transaction, right? It's
Yes.
on per second. The one database across the globe, many people are trying to accessing. So that scenario you cannot use for a normal hard disk, that is called as a HDD. If you use that is in your the latency will be very slow. You will not expect that is in much more faster. But recommendation is SSD hard disk. SSD hard disk, it is using for your IOPS workload. This IOPS workloads will help you to give a more speed compared to an SSD, right? We'll talk about in detailed manner. Now, accordingly, this you need to select for the standard SSD. Keep the encryption type by default. We'll talk about this is also topic. What is a disk encryption later, right? Encryption, and what is the default one? If I want to change, encryption. Encryption. What is the process? We'll talk about. So we are all talking about in a part of in a virtual machine services. Getting my point? What I'm trying to explaining? Is that
Yes.
clear? Okay.
Hmm.
Now keep the standard SSD and keep the default encryption. Default encryption. 1 minute, guys. Okay. In a VM configurations, we should understand that is in SSD task part of the disk. Okay. And additional disk you wanted to be managed, you can also be created. We'll come back to this topic once VM build. Okay. You can add and configure additional data disk for your virtual machine attaching existing. This VM also come with a temporary disk. Remember, whatever default VM while creating, the default disk will come, that is called as a managed disk. Okay. The C drive, whatever you are getting, C drive for VM, we'll talk about in disk related. right? We'll go back to the next networking part, right? It's automatically taking for the network. We have not configured anything about network, but the Azure platform, it's a default as automated. They themselves, they'll create a virtual network, right? They themselves creating a virtual network. Remember, this is again interview questions. I have not created virtual network. Does that Azure will take care? Yes, Azure will take care it for you to create a default virtual network. Can I create a virtual network for my network? Yes, you can also create. When we go to the networking part or virtual network part, we'll talk about. If you create your own virtual network, in that virtual network, what kind of subnet you need to configure your own subnet, we will talk about. But here, whatever the Azure is created, the virtual network, in that the subnet default is created. And in that subnet, the default IP address has been given 10.3.0.0/24. This everything is taken care by Azure only. He is helping us. You can take the default virtual network, take a default subnet, and in that is going to provide the public IP address for test VM01. Remember, while configuring the VM, okay, we are also following that is in that VM, there is a network interface card, right? NIC, right? And in the NIC, you are going to connect to the LAN cable. Then you are going to configure the IP addresses. Yes or no? Everything will be automated. This part is everything automated. Automatically your virtual VM that connected will get released for the NIC, and this NIC, it will be what in a physically there they have connected. Already they have connected. Just only it will give you for that is in on the top of the hardware. On the top of hardware, whatever VM you going to create it, that will be connected to the particular that virtual network, which is virtual network is connected, and the IP address, the subnet will be created, and it will give the test VM01 IP. This is all automatic process happening in background. And the NIC network security group, by default you can take a basic, okay, and public inbound road. You can see this is the most important. Public inbound road, it's a by default allow selected ports. By default we are giving the 3389. Okay, so while configuring also, if you give the other port, accordingly it will work. We'll talk about while configuring the web application, right? And I don't need to have a load balancing, and just go to the network next management part, right? You can keep by default everything. We don't want to take anything as of now. Just go to the advanced, and I don't need to have a tag. Also go to the next and create it. This is we already discussed. Just for again, you can see the overall in this subscription, it is charging for you to per hour 2 rupees 0.9971. Remember, this is a per hour 2.9971. And one important here, remember the billing part actually is going to charge for per minute. Whatever charge is going to apply per minute, okay, but the overall going to calculation per hour. So you use for from the 1 minute to last 59 minute, but you shut down the machine 58th minute, then it will not be going to charge anything. Remember, usually they charge for per minute every resources, but the overall calculated, he will give you this much amount. But the moment you shut down the machine, stop the machine 58th minute or 48th minute, or within that 1 minute, under 1 minute, then they will not charge. So that's what, when you shut down the, that's what we keep telling for any machines you build, immediately you need to, after the usable you done it, please delete the resources and avoid the chargeable. So it's overall summary as a part of virtual machine creation, and we are creating this machine. So once we created, we know already how to connect a machine. You can see the configurations part, everything, and we will connect it. Then we'll configure the web application server in this machine. We will try to access the web application over public and private. Let's see how it works. Any question? You guys, a lab done last class, what we discussed? This is already discussed, we have, right? Last class.
Yes, but VM, we have that resource group only, that pre-recorded video.
That VM, what happened?
VM is not that, only resource group that is got.
Resource script. What is it?
No, we got the mail that recorded video resource group, that class we got. The VM not got it.
Which email you got it?
Resource group.
Okay, we did not get last class record.
Yes.
Yeah, I send you already. Can you check it? Both of you have sent it immediately after the class. See, I have already uploaded here.
Okay.
Let me
So
see
I
this.
think I need to check on Outlook. I checked on Gmail. Gmail is not there.
See, you can see here. This is my drive. Okay, Azure. Then you would have pinged me, right? Sir, I have not received. I would have checked it. January class. Oh, class one. Sorry, man. Correct. You are right. I have not added in the class two. Correct. Folder upload. You would have pinged me, right?
Yes.
You would have pinged me class two. Sir, I have not received. I would have added, right? I usually immediately upload into the drive and I would have shared it. Anyway, that both I will share you the today.
Okay.
Okay. So if I missed something, you should have pinged me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Right. I have just added and I'm going to share you the later after the class.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so we have built for a virtual machine VM, and what you need to do, you need to go to the resource, go to resource. Now you can see the complete test VM configuration, right? Test VM configurations. We need to verify. So we have created on fly the resource group called the VM service, right? And that is a public IP address you are getting, and VM service, the virtual network, it's by default has been taken. We have not created, or Azure only is taken. It's created and updated, right? And it's a subscription ID reference. Always I keep telling you that it's a tagged with the beta by default, the respective region and respective subscription, right? And in that VM, you can see that completely virtual machine configuration, Windows Server, okay, which center, which OS you have taken, right? And these are all detailed VM detailed, and networking related is a public IP taken and a private IP has been taken, right? Size, it's a RAM 4 GB, 2 CPU memory, and disk. And you want to see the default disk size. What is the default disk size you want to? You can just click the disk here. You will come to know. So availability scaling we have not configured. Azure Spot we have not configured. Just we kept for the default one, right? If you go to the size, now you can see the by default 127 GB it is been taken for you. We have selected for that is in SSD. Okay, SSD hard disk, it is a 127 GB by default. This drive we call as a managed disk. Okay, this drive we call as a managed disk. Now let's connect the server. Okay, let's connect the server and we can see the how to configure web application. Now, as I told you, to connect the server, you need to take the public IP address and go to the your RDP
RDP.
connection manager. Okay, and Azure Lab and properties, which is a test VM, VM01. Okay, give the public IP address, connect server. Okay, have you given the username password? You given, right? Neel, I have given the username and password, and we are accessing this machine. Is a Shailaja who joined? Is it Ajit? Hello, Ajit. Okay, now you can see that VM we have logged in this machine. Now, first step, what you need to do check. you need to check for that is in your disk related. Okay, which is you need to say that is in uh, compute mgmt.msc. Also, you need to change a password as well for the administrator password. So by default, this user, whatever you logged in, this guy is an administrator only. In Azure, there is no administrator account. Remember, in Azure, there's no administrator account they have created. And if you go and see that is in a GCP, they have a administrator account is a disabled state, and we need to enable it. But in Azure, you don't have that is an administrator like that. So the by default, this user is a administrator part, right? He is a part of administrator only. This is again a question we'll ask. Other cloud, AWS signed GCP. Once you build a VM, once you logged in the VM, they have there is an administrator account, which is like administrator, and it's a disabled status. We need to reset the password and enable it. But in Azure, whatever user you created, that is user is a part of your administrator, the one. And go to the disk management. In the disk management, you have a C drive only, right?
Yeah.
It is a C drives. How much GB is been there? 137 overall, 400 MB and 19 MB the reserved they put into this, and this many GBs. And by default, this disk one is created for 8 GB, which is non-usable. And temporary storage means the temporary storage. If you try to put any data in this, right, it won't permanently put it, or once you shut down the machine. Remember here. So once you put any data in this, right, something you put any data, okay, say test, this is your own data, it's a your own data. What Microsoft suggests, do not put any data in your temporary storage, because it is vanished, it is going to remove automatically once your VM is stopped. Remember, when you shut down a reboot, your data will be available, the drive will be available, but the once your machine is stopped, it will be automatically deallocated and everything data will be deleted. You don't expect any data, you revert back. But if you put in the C drive, yes, it is a system managed. There's a two type of disk. One is system managed disk, that is called as a C drive. Temporary storage, that is called as a D drive, which is, remember, once you have stopped, the data will be deleted. We will try it, we will check it for that is how it's going to delete it. Okay, now in this machine, what I need to do, I will going to add a roles and feature. Next, and test VM, its IP address has been taken internally, and I'm going to install for IIS web server, and do whatever you want, your day-to-day operations, right? The Azure platform is given to you all the facilitate. Then once a machine is accessible, your day-to-day operations, whatever you needed, you can use it. Getting?
Yep.
So this is the main purpose people are moving to the Azure, and we need to work accordingly, right? Yeah. So we discussed of the cost associated with the virtual machine, right? We understood the cost associated with virtual machine. And also in the machine, you can also plan for your budget. Remember, we'll talk about, let's talk about, let's finish it. We'll discuss the next. You can also do it for set the budget. Okay, in my VM is a crossing which is high utilization beyond my limits, then you need to notify me by sending an email, and it is crossing your limits or crossing for your billing part. So you can configure it for the budget perspective. That you can do it in an individual, the VM part. Okay. And you understood for the VM state. VM state means you can have a shutdown and a reboot, which is a normal. And when you stopped, this is a VM state. When you stopped, that is in deallocated your public IP address, deallocated for automatically your temporary drive. Okay, this is a VM state. So let's see. To configuring this is going to install now. Install now for, okay, close this. And now you can go back. Just install it. You no need to configure for IIS. Okay. Now you can see for internally, I want to access my web application. web application I want to access, that you need to take a internal IP address. Internal IP address means it's a private IP address. So private IP address would be, you need to go to the Azure portal. This is a 10.3.0.4, right?
Yes.
Okay. Enable HTTP/. Now you can see you're able to access your web page. Okay. Now this web page is coming from where? It's coming from by default when you go to the C. Once you install the IIS server, it will be creating inetpo folder and a www root, and this is IIS. This will be, if you want to edit this, you want to test it, you can test it. This page, you can edit it. So you can say, you can create something here. Welcome to online Azure training. Okay, example, we just make some little cosmetic. Okay, for understanding, save it. But this web application I'm accessing internally, okay, internal network, which is I use for the private IP address, right? Which is private IP address. Now it's connected. But when I go out public, if you give here IP address 10.0.3.0, 10.3.0.4, it won't work. But you need to give that is in public IP address. So what is the public IP address here? This IP address, right? So
Yeah.
for this machine, when you go to the HTTP, okay, this IP address, can you get the that web page?
No.
No. So to get a web page of this, you need to manage to configure inbound role. We have inbound role, we have connected only for RDP port, right? You need to be open to outside. You need to be open for to outside connect. What is the web application port number? Or you can say we are accessing for HTTP, right? What is the HTTP
Yeah.
port number here?
80.
445.
Now remember, not 445. Remember
80.
here, yeah, we are going to accessing the service over the HTTP. When I say HTTP, the port number, the protocol is, see, web application is accessing over
Internet.
and browser, right? Browser.
Yes.
In the browser, the protocol we are using, HTTP, right? Protocol we are using that is called as a HTTP, and the port number is, remember, this is important, how we have did it for in a RDP is,
80.
what is that? 80.
80.
But same things, if this web application is a secure, which is HTTPS, which is certification, everything certified, everything they did it, then the port number is, what is that?
443. 443.
Port number is 443, right? So
3.
443, right? Same things we did for, that is in RDP, the port number for accessing VM with the RDP MSTSC console, we are going to connecting RDP, that is 3389. Same things, we want to accessing the web application service over the browser, which is a internet through, then we should understand that is in what kind of service, what kind of protocol we are using, and that protocol we need to configure that prospective port number. So in this, it is a inbound, we need to configure to access, we need to configure to access outside of VM, that is called as a, we need to configure inbound role to access outside of VM by configuring, what is that port, what is the server, what is the protocol, which is a HTTP and
HTTP.
port
Phone
number.
number.
You need to tell. in the network. So go to the VM, go to the VM, go to the VM, go to the networking, right? In the by default, as you know, the reason is the RDP has been connected, right? So what you need to do, add inbound port role, right? And the source, you can say any, right? Source might be your computer, my computer, any. Source port ranges, star put it, any port ranges can be connected. Destination, you can put any source and destination, put any, right? Service, either you can go ahead with the custom or you can go ahead with the specific port number. Protocol, either you can particular protocol, you can go ahead and select it, whichever you are going to use, right? Keep the by default, this comes under for everything is in under, these are all custom only. Or you want to specifically, you can go ahead for the STTP, because STTP service we are configuring. And we need to put that is in port number range is 80, right? The port number is 80. Now you can select the protocol any, and action is allow. Now you can change for the port number is 80. You can just give that is in some description if you want. We are connecting, we are accessing, okay, web application over the internet. Hence we are connecting for that is in, we are configuring for the inbound role for STTP, which is connected. Keep the by default priority, which is a 310 is given. Role are processed in a priority order. This is the number will be given. Don't change anything for this. So we need to only configure for this particular VM. For the STTP, we need to access the STTP, right? So once you have clicked OK, then you should be able to see that is in. Okay, it's going to be configuring here. Okay, created security role. Remember, the security role once is created, it's successfully done. You just refresh it. Just refresh it and you can able to see that is in STTP port 80 and the port number 80 and a protocol any, source is any and destination any, right? This is we have created. Why we have created? Because when we trying to accessing outside of the world, outside of the internet via internet, then I want to access the my web application. Now I'm able to access. If I give you this IP address, can you try to accessing for your end? I'm just pinging you over the text. Just see, can you able to access for my web application? Welcome to online Azure training.
It's working.
Both of you working?
Yeah, I
Yes,
got
Neel.
it.
Good. So this is a main feasible to having a cloud technologies we should understand, right?
Yeah.
So we did for a completely in a Windows VM. So like that we need to do for a Linux VM. You can see how do we build the Linux VM and how do we create a, how do we configure the web application with the help of commandlet, and how do we access the Linux VM, we'll talk about now, right? Now come back to the Azure again and go back to the home. Okay, go back to the virtual machine, create virtual machine. Okay, now same subscription I can use for the existing one, which is test VM I have created or VM service I have created, right? And the VM name I'm going to give Linux VM. Okay, Linux VM, and take the any region. Okay, keep the standard and go to the image, operating system image. You can say Ubuntu server, right? Take this Ubuntu one. The moment you select the Linux machine, right, you can see that SSH public key. Okay, SSH public key. Remember, either you can go and directly password, or you can use the SSH public key. We'll see the first how do you use a password and how do we connect it first. Okay, you can give the reason again. The username is Neel. First password. This is for the SSH for the Linux protocol and port number you need to remember. Okay, then I'm going to give the password and confirm password. You can see SSH 22 port number. As I told you earlier, you need to remember the Windows RDP connections port number, and for Linux machine port number. This is 22, right? Now let's say next disk, same. Don't take a premium. Select for the standard SSD. Right. Okay, then go to the next, and same. It's a network is taking 10.3.0.0 web networking again, basic SSH to port number. That's all. Okay, I don't need any other additional information. Go to the next and go to the next and just say create it. So the most important you should remember, now you can see there is a 2 rupees 9971 is a 2 rupees, okay, per hour. Okay, so it will all username is terms and conditions asking. Okay, then go and create it. Then afterwards, once you have submitted, the once its VM is created of Linux machine, again this Linux machine see that a VM configuration. You have seen that is in Windows VM configuration. You have seen that is in disk related. You have seen the network related, right? You have seen the default public IP address, private IP address. You have seen that for Windows VM. Same things you can check it for a Linux VM once it's completed, and you can see what kind of network related, disk related. Always you should remember which service we are going to talk about. In that service, in and out, you need to go to that service, that resources, and you can see that is in the configurations part. You can see what kind of configuration has been default is given. Additionally, you want to configure, you can do it.
Okay.
Good to go. You getting?
Yeah.
Till now we are going to talk about only VM. Don't confuse anything. Just we are building the virtual machine in Azure. So in that VM, we are going to talk about what are the other things we are going to understand that is in, right? Yeah. In one role where we have created.
It's for accessing from public.
No, where we have configured in the inbound role.
And that HTTP.
Where we have configured, you need to understand and remember the configurations part. We have created under VM in the networking section, and there we have created inbound role.
Inbound role.
And what purpose we have created inbound role?
For accessing over public.
Public accessing. Correct. Over the internet, we need to access that web application. We need to configure HTTP. Okay. Go to the resource. I am in a Linux VM under Linux VM configuration. Same things. The resource group is taken the VM service, and this is the operating system. And again, it's got the public IP address, and this is a virtual network. Everything. These steps is by default, you know already. And again, the virtual machines part, what Linux VM, all operating system related. Then you can see the networking related public IP address, private IP address, and the size of the VM. It's a 2 GB, 4 GB memory and 2 CPU. And now you can see the disk is given. Other things we have given the default. But when you want to go to the detail mode, what is the space of this machine is taken? Remember, for Windows, it is a default size. Default hard disk size, how much it was?
120.
127. And Linux machine, how much space is taken?
30 GB.
30 GB. Remember, this will be going to help you to understanding that. Okay, 30 GB. All right. Now, how do I connect it? To connect it, as I told you, you need to download Putty. You will not be going to directly take public IP address for VM machine, can't connect. You can try it here. right? For the Linux machine, if you have a public IP address, copy this and you try to connect over the RDP connection manager, add server. Okay, this is Linux VM. Add. Are you able to connect here?
No.
See that because you are trying to accessing from the some different console and different method, right? Now
Yes.
to access the Linux VM, what is the method you should use for putty? So you have to go to Google. You have to use a putty. Okay, putty for Windows 10. Download this. Click here. Okay, it's going to download. You need to select for that is for Windows. Okay, 64-bit. Just select for the first one only. Okay, is a setup. The setup file is getting downloading now. We just open it. Okay, go next. Install it and finish it. Once you're done, with the help of the putty, okay, I think I have downloaded putty key generated. I think not this. This one putty.exe, not for that. Okay, this is a actually putty.exe. Okay, this is one. Okay, what you need to do, you need to provide the host name or IP address. What is the IP address you have taken? This is IP address. What is the port number you're connecting here? 22. So just say SSH, right? SSH, it is a port number. Now go open. Now it's going to connecting here. Now you can see accept. Now it's a login as. Now it's connected to VM. What is the username you have given? Neel. And what is the password of this machine? Now you are into the machine and you have logged in now. Now you can see your machine is logged in. Now I want to configure a web application in this. Everything is command based, right? What is a Linux based operating system? Everything is a command based, right? So
Yes.
to do that, what you need to do, you need to get update. That command is simple command called as a sudo, right? Sudo and application. You need to say get update hyphen get and space update. You need to update it. apt hyphen. I will share this command. Don't worry. Okay, just understand that is in. I'm going to updating for application get update. This command is simple sudo apt hyphen get update, like PowerShell command that you are going to use like that. For web application installing, we called as a in a nginx. Okay, nginx means nginx. It's a short form. Engine nginx. So to install web application, you need to say sudo again apt hyphen get. Say you need to install that is space nginx. Remember nginx for installing web application in a Linux machine. You are not experienced, you are not technology working on Linux, but you should have some basic knowledge. For entry purpose, you should know, yes, I worked on that Linux machine. For just install the do you want to continue? Yes. Yeah. Now I just install it, but I want to be access over the public. Again, what I need to do? I have to configure for inbound role of this machine. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Now to configure the inbound role, how to do? We will check it. Now we have built it. We have configured it. Okay. Now what we did, just say that is in install, that is in. Okay, we have installed this is, we have done it. How to build a web application, right? Now you can see the command is, you can say sudo. Okay, once downloaded putty.exe. Okay, give the public IP address with SSH. Then it will connect and give that is a username and password, right? Then you need to configure web application by using below command. That command called as a, first you need to be update sudo
apt minus
apt hyphen get, which is
get
update,
update
and this is for updating application.
applications.
Then install sudo apt
apt
get
hyphen get
install.
install
Okay,
nginx
nginx for
web application.
install web application. That's all. Now we need to remember, we will check accessing web application via public. How do you check it? You need to configure for. Now try for to get the public IPs and try directly it works or not. Copy and go back here and press here. Do you accessible? No, right?
No.
Now how do we configure? You need to go back to the VM. Go back to the VM. Go to the networking. Let's process and we'll come back. Let's see that is in what process is coming here. Okay, I'm not able to accessing. Now to accessing for the public that web application, what we need to do, go to this VM, Linux VM, and go to the networking, go to the inbound role, which protocol and which port we need to configure. Everything is a keep same. Okay, any allow, that only you need to change for port 80 for configuring web application in Linux machine. Web application inbound role. Okay, inbound role in Linux machine. Yes or no? Just say add. Very simple, right? SSH 22 is by default has been created, and once this is deployment done, then you can try to accessing. You will be able to access. Right? You can see the deployment part is completed or not. It's completed. Now go back to the web application and enter. Still not. Hey, see what we did. What we did. We have did wrong, right? What's supposed to be configured? Tell me, guys. You there? Are we supposed to connecting for that is an 80? or what?
443. 443.
Not 443. We need to
For
configure
22.
SSH, right? 22.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
Remember,
22.
guys. Yes, I am going to deleting for this.
Oh,
See, this
got
is
it.
how. Yeah. See, now I little wondered actually, but yeah, this is good for the learning as well. Okay, what you need to do?
Yes.
Source and destination keep and go to the service. You can say here specifically SSH, and in the SSH you need to say allow. It is going to port number for 22, right? Port number 22.
Right.
Keep the priority and it's allow, right? SSH. Now you can say configuring inbound role in Linux machine.
Let's see.
So this is how we need to be plan and look into immediately. Okay, hey, that inbound role has been created wrongly and we need to change it. Yes or no? This is the most important.
Yes.
Linux machine is for SSH. Windows machine is for RDP,
RDP.
which is HTTP, right? The SSH, right? We are accessing the public. I mean, over the HTTP, but it should connect. It should be able to access or not. Let's see that. But actually, we should configure HTTP only. Let's see that is. But you know, I think just got little confusion here. But when we're accessing that is in a page over the internet, we should connect HTTP. Doesn't matter it's VM or not, right? But in accessing RDP, we must connect for the SSH, right? It's not able to connect. Oh, still processing. Let it continue. We need to select HTTP only. In that HTTP, we need to change for that is in HTTP 80. So then we need to add it. Let's see that is in. Earlier what
So
we
in
created, it was correct only.
So is there any configuration to add that inbound in that Linux machine inside the Linux VM?
Yes, it is possible. Now you can see that is basically we have created this SSH, right? This is not a right one. Just me delete this one. Okay, you have to go and create once again, add inbound role. Now you can say source, any destination, any custom. Then you have to select for here. You can select for directly either HTTP. Okay, and automatically is going to take a 80 and allow. Okay, you can make it that is an 80 and just say, okay, just say add it. Okay, let's deploy it because since we are accessing over the browser, which is internet, we need to configure for HTTP port 80 only.
For
Okay.
internal, for internal network, it's SSH. It's fine. But for
Yeah,
external, it
exactly.
should be HTTP.
Correct. External, it should be HTTP only. Extend should it must be earlier what we created as correct only. For SSH for the RDP connection and all these things. That is the main important.
Because SSH was by default was there available.
Correct. So let's see it's connecting, accessing or not. I need to add HTTP. Okay, enter it. See, I'm able to accessing for welcome to Nginx. If you see this page, the Nginx web server successfully installed and working further. This is a Linux web application server.
Okay.
It's clear.
Yeah.
It's a basic one. Default virtual machine we created, Windows virtual machine we created, and we install the web application, and we install for that VM machine, which is
Linux.
Linux machine, and in that Linux machine we have installed for the reason web applications. Is that clear? Understood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Let's
Neel.
let's move on to the next topic in the virtual machine service only, which is a disk related.
So
Right?
before that, I have a doubt.
Go ahead.
We are giving this inbound role. So is it also be costable, means billable?
No, this is not going to cost in one role. Nothing. It
Okay.
just for as a virtual network, it will not going to charge it. You can see that is in in Azure inbound and outbound all chargeable or not.
Because we are accessing from the public network. No?
Correct.
So
Let's see this is the traffic when you configure it might be able to chargeable. Security role, and this we have configured priority 5 roles information. So these are all this we did it. No, I think this is when you create a configure the traffic level, right? Yes, is going to be chargeable, right? Security group the filter and from Azure source network group, and this article is they have not given any this thing. We'll see that earlier one we have used, right? Yeah, this you can see virtual network in Azure is a free charges, and after virtual network is given, and either in the same region, different region, and enable you to route the traffic between the using public IP. You can see private IPs and public IPs can be inbound and outbound traffic is charged. See, it is a charged.
okay.
I'll put into this URL. Sometime you need to have referring purpose. Okay. It's going to be your whatever inbound and outbound is you have created, it's chargeable. Inbound and outbound role configuration is chargeable. Okay. Good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the disk related. So basically, first time when you install that is in VM, right? You should understand that is in the first disk which is created a C drive, right? The C drive we called as a
Manage disk.
managed disk. Okay, managed disk. And the additional disk you are going to create it, that is a part of temporary disk. But what's happening here? Any data you put into that is in any data you created, you have saved in temporary drive. After stopping,
Shut down.
not shut down. After stopping, your data will not be available.
Okay.
Remember, you know all the difference between stopping and shutdown. Shutdown and restart, yes, your data will be back. Okay, let's see here. Go to the your Windows server. Okay, Windows server. Now you have created one already, that is temporary drive is created. Okay, then I'm just going to create a copy this www root folder into the temporary drive. Okay, just save it. Okay, test I have create one file here inside. Right now, what I will do for testing, I will reboot this machine. Okay, I will reboot this machine. Getting?
Okay.
I'm going to reboot the machine, and meanwhile, let me stop the Linux machine. We don't need this one. Home. Okay, go to the Linux machine. I'm going to stop because I don't need, otherwise it's going to be charged, right?
Yes.
Stop it. So we understood that is in how to configure and how to access the web applications and
Web
everything in a
application.
Linux machine. And same things we are going to talk about in Windows machine. In Windows machine, the drive we have created, test VM, and in the disk, right? Okay, I have just restarted. The machine is
Yeah.
restarted. Now, also when you go and shut down the machine, when you go and shut down the machine, now it's a running status, right? Let's wait for a few
Yes.
seconds. Then it should be able to see the. It should not show that is in deallocated. Okay, deallocated something. It should be stopped status now. Okay, this is the machine we build. Okay, test VM. Right. Let's refresh this machine console. Now you can see it should be status. I've shut down and rebooted. What I did. Okay, no problem. I'm going to shut down this machine here only. I have rebooted or shut down. I have rebooted, right? Guys,
Rebooted.
rebooted, right? See, after rebooted, it still shows as a running only. Obviously, it's going to show the running only. So let's take the public IP address again, then connect the machine and see the drive is available or not. Click OK. After reboot, it won't going to change for any your public IP address, anything, right? But you can able to
Yeah.
connect the machine. Right? You can see you are able to connect. But any issue with your drive, your temporary drive?
That need to check.
And when we're talking about disk, right? Which
Hmm.
disk extension it is going to create a default?
127.
Mhm. What is the disk extension? You can see the data is available here. Okay, everything is available. I'm going to shut down this machine now. Remember, the virtual machine, whatever created in Azure, the disk extension should be VHDX. Why VHDX? Because the
Virtual
whatever VM
machines.
is created for Hyper-V. Remember, all the machines, the virtual platform, all the machines, virtual platform, okay, which is created for Hyper-V. And all the machines disk format should be VHDX. Remember, this is again intervention questions will ask. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Now I shut down the machine. Now I shut down the machine. Now the machine should be in a stopped now,
Stop.
right? Stopped. And I shut down the machine and I restarted when my data drive will be there. Just temporary drive will be there. Now I'm testing for the shutting down. I'm going to start. Still your data will be available. But the moment you stop and start, it's completely deallocating. Your temporary data will not available. We'll see the practically.
Hmm.
Okay, now I'm running here. Let me connect back again. Okay, log in with this server. Any issue with your data? Should not be, right? Now you can see
No.
temporary drive and your data will be available. Now what I will do, I will shut down. I will go to the VM console. Okay, go to this stop. I'm
So
going to stop this machine and say, okay, I'm stopped here. Most important, the moment you stop, your temporary data will be lost. It's a vanished. You won't be able to get back. This is the one things you need to understand. Practically, I'm showing you need to do the practically. Right. Now you can see successfully done. Now I stopped it. Everything is deallocated. You can just refresh it here. Your public IP address is gone. Now you can see, and your public IP address is not there. Then I'm going to start this machine, right?
yes.
Now let's see. You're able to connect the machine. Test VM. I started the machine, right? Now you can see when you start the machine, the public IP address get changed. You won't be able to know the different public IP address. Now you need to
Yes.
take the different public IP address and you need to map it. See, it earlier was a different one. This is a major
Yes.
changes here, right? You need to click OK. Now again, you need to connect this machine. Now log in with the password. Now, what is the status of this?
Should be a fresh machine.
Do we get the data?
No.
Go back to the drive. D drive. So you gone.
Yes.
It's deleted.
Yes.
So we have proved that you should remember temporary disk is any data you have saved in temporary drive. After stopping, data will not be available. Clear? Now, important here, we need to have a different type of a disk while selecting. What are those? Remember, we have different type of disk. Okay, number one, while selecting depends on our operations required. There is a standard HDD, STAND ARD, standard HDD. Second one is
Standard SSD.
very good, standard SSD.
SSD.
SSD, and third one is
Uh,
premium
Premium SSD.
PREMIMUM SSD. And one more is also available, which is ultra disk. Remember. And what is the difference between all these disks? You should remember. So majorly you should understand that. 1 minute. Today. Okay. Now remember the major difference between, what is the major difference between standard hard disk and SSD hard disk? First part, that the major difference between what it is, it's a speed.
Speed.
And what is important, it is a cost. Remember, cost. What is the speed and what is the cost would be if you take a 500 normal traditional hard disk, right? And and the speed, it will be obviously you can use for the reason. When I talk about speed, we need to talk about the maximum. Okay, max we say IOPS, which is a 2000. What is IOPS here? It's an
Input operational
operational per second.
second.
Remember, so that is rotation period, and max IOPS is a 20,000. And maximum disk we need to create. What is the total disk we can create here? We can create 32,767 a GB can be created. It's a maximum size limit. This is again entry question. You should remember. I'm making a proper note and you should go through later part. Okay. And it's a again one more important in the IOPS. It's a throughput actually, but that is you cannot required. You can just see the reason basically how it's going to work on that reason. And this will work for the reason normal, which is you can say non-critical. The environment is environment, which is a non-critical. You need to select accordingly. Okay, non-critical, which is a traditional disk we use for non-critical. You can say workloads. Now, when you talk about the standard SSD is a you can say for test and development area. The speed is here. You can see that is in maximum IOPS for that is in how much you are going to use 6,000. Okay, 6,000, and this is a cost is less comparative comparative SSD hard disk, right? And cost for expensive. Okay, and you remember here when you take a standard SSD, depends on your, this is usage for environment. What is that? You can say environment is, we can say that is in, it will be ideally be used for the web server. Okay, which is a web server, which is you can say test and dev workloads, you can say environment, right? And again, premium SSD, this will be a actual production. Okay, in actual, normally when you go to the production, you can say this is a production workloads, right? Production workloads. Again, this is a cost is expensive comparatively, but the size is, so size is, it is going to have, that is an IOPS, it is a 20,000. Remember guys, input operational per second IOPS, right? And again, this is also maximum disk is the 32,000 32,767 maximum size is there, but is increasing for your IO speed, okay, 20,000. And this is actually we are going to use a production, right? And most important, the one more ultra disk is there. This is going to use for in a product based company, which is a what you called database kind of, you can use it. Okay, you can say that is SQL, Oracle, okay, all these database. Okay, Oracle database. And this speed, this is not 32,670, this is 65,356. Remember, 65,356 GB is a maximum limit. And this speed is, okay, the speed is, you can say this is a 1,60,000. Remember guys, it's a 1,60,000. So see how much speed it will be. You should remember, you need to go through once again. This is the interview question they will ask. Okay, so you have to manage it. Getting my point? Understanding here?
Yes, Neel.
So basically we have a 4 type of disk types. One is standard hard
Standard
disk.
HDD,
One is a standard SSD,
standard SSD,
premium SSD, and ultra disk. So
ultra disk.
based on the region, some of the region has a ultra disk, some regions has for the these three, based by default by 3. So whichever depends on region, you need to select, depends on your requirement, you need to select it.
Yeah.
Right? Getting my point?
Yes.
Okay. So now in this disk, right? In this disk, you need to understand for the by default, there is encryption has been created. Right, the encryption has been created, because now people will talk about what will be the security of that, what will be the encryptions per part. So it's a by default is a server side, it is SSE disk encryption has been created, where you can see that is called as a, you can go to this, you can go to the disk. Okay, in the disk you can see there is a SSE, the encryption is created by default is a server side encryption. What is that? Server side encryption we called as a. So this by default can be available the encryption. Because of that, you will have, you can say I have that is in server side encryption. Okay, so basically this will can be used for in a by default is coming from that is in Azure only. So but do we have any other options to create for separate by using no, I want to manage for, I want to manage my own encryption. That kind of options also be possible, which is customer side. You can say customer side, or you can say custom encryptions can be side. Getting my point? The
Yeah.
encryptions can be created two way. One is by default, which is server side encryption. And if question will ask, okay, I want to make for that is in customer end or custom related encryption you want to do, yes, it's possible, can be done. But there is a, you need to create for that is key, and you need to create a vault for that is in. So when we talk about storage, then we will discuss about the encryption for the storage parties. But you need to remember how you are going to configure that is in disk, and what are the type of the disk, and how you are going to manage the encryptions. The default it will be created. So this you can create for in there, and this custom encryption also possible, can be created, which is a customer, or you can say custom encryption will be possible. That you need to do have that is in what you call that is in a disk vault. You need to create separate service you need to take. Okay, or you can say encryption vault, something you need to create. And you should have some specific key on that. And that key you need to map up particular that is in the disk. It's a
So I
little more.
think Neil, there is altogether a different team, like in a which is
Yeah,
taking
yes,
care of this
yes.
kind of.
I know. Yes, yes. Because since you want to have more secure, you should
Yes,
be
yes.
you should be talk to with them, and we need to manage it separate. But we should, since we are talking about virtual machine, we need to know how that is in,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, how all the
Yes,
services
yes.
are available or not. So how I can manage it.
Got
Okay,
it.
good to go.
Yeah.
So these are
Yeah.
all about guys for the virtual machines topic. So if you have any question, tomorrow we will talk about few more things. How do we build a VM for PowerShell? How do I build a Azure resource template? All this we'll talk about. This things till now what we discussed only for the GUI mode. Now tomorrow we'll talk about so how do I build machine VM from PowerShell and what kind of console I need to use and can I use for the completely script, okay, which is ARM template. So these are all we'll talk about tomorrow. Okay, we are from the PowerShell. You understood?
Yeah.
So tomorrow we will
Yeah.
talk about few more detail on virtual machine. We will end the virtual machine service. Then we'll next week onwards we'll talk about different service.
Okay.
Good to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Good guys. Any question?
No.
If no
No.
question, then we can wind up today. We'll talk about tomorrow again.
Yeah,
Actually, I
sure.
supposed to take 2.5 hours, but since we have connected for the basic, right? Just I don't want to put more loaded on your head. So you need to be stable. You need to be stable to the Azure. You should understand that is in how they actually rather than just keep going, right? And these are services. You should understand thoroughly,
Yeah.
right?
So for your information, Neil, I am in like in right now I'm in a case in a quarantine phase. Like I have tested positive for COVID,
Oh,
so I'm quarantining myself.
please take
Yeah.
care. Please
Yeah.
take care.
That's why.
So it's but I hope it's I think
No, I think it's a mild. I think
yeah,
I
it's
have
a
like
mild, mild.
it's a 7 day quarantine. So today is my third day. So I like no.
Yeah. We'll connect tomorrow for the continue with the VM and then we'll talk about the as per that is in tomorrow topic. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure,
Take
sure.
care, guys. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.